Hello and welcome as it is the completion of the 13th day of June 2019. My name is Derek and welcome to the Money Charts channel where always all bets trades of the like. That's within each his own risk and their own reward as there's risk and there's reward to it. After all, if you're going to take the chances, put up the cash for the investment to either go higher or lower. That's going to do just that, either or. Goes lower and you lose, well, you lose. If it goes higher, you win, you'll win. So, whatever information you gather from this, you're making, of course, your own decisions. Start off with Bitcoin dominance. And I don't know how much you want to count on an outside day, an outside period, which means the highs is greater than it was the previous day and the lows lower than it was the previous before then, as is the case here. But it's bigger, yet it's still not that big of a move. No major volatility within today's market. Bitcoin overperforming the other coins as it's going up. It is within this correctionary phase still, resisting in near that of the 18 average of highs. So there's not much more to go over within such. But today is one of the most exciting days as far as my optimism for price action moving forward. As just recently, around 4 o'clock Eastern Time, a lot of the setups I was looking for really are coming through, which is fantastic. And we'll bring up the market on the Bitstamp exchange and the daily chart to start this off. So as far as, again, where we've came from, just looking at a lot of periods, I've said this before, but people that are new and just a refresher, not resisting in here. And it's just been congesting in between this 7,000-8,000 range, an area at which it never really did congest much before in that price area in the past. But the whole point again is it didn't stop going up here. That in itself was a very, very bullish statement. And when we look for what we're seeing in today's session, the price action is managed to get above the 18 average of highs. It's the second consecutive day in a row. Price action stayed above the 18 average of lows, and that's the one thing I've been looking for. And really, 3 straight days in a row for the most part, and 4 straight closing in it. That it is holding and staying above the 18 average of lows. The 18 average of lows will flatten out starting in 56 minutes because that's when a new period will come in because it's 7:04 p.m. Eastern Time, and at 8 o'clock is when the UTC reaches that of midnight and a new day comes in. And because of the price action, the 18 average of lows, well, the lowest price is going to start up here, so that's, even if anything, it might even barely rise. Let's just see where the numbers went from the day before. It was 78.06 and 0.38. Then, well, technically, the 18 average of lows is actually rising today because it went up to, almost 10 basis points higher. And that's a big cause because of how high today's low comes in. But all that type of stuff is all part of technicality. But it does show how well this is holding consecutive days in a row with these higher lows in store. This resistance line obviously represents this major level hit over the past several days. It managed to get above yesterday. We can see it supported it today. We'll see things a little more clearly amongst the 4-hour term time frame. And as I mentioned, it was just recently where I'm like, oh my goodness, this thing is magnificent. Failed breakdown, yeah. Inverted head and shoulders pattern esque style formation, yeah. As let's just show it from here. This level of support was big, of course, and resistance. It obviously found it there on a big double candle sell off. Had a very good rally. It was a lower high one, but nonetheless, for a lower high rally, it was good. And what it didn't do was correct in any of the areas where it needed to. It found support here. It didn't hold and stay above the 18 average of lows. In fact, it resisted it. Then not only did it not do that, but it didn't find support at previous key level. And this is the area that I hate to predict, like always, where you're at an area like this, you go there usually fast, which is what it was. Oh, are you going to have a quick move lower? Yes, it did. Are we going to have little support and all those types of things? And is it going to be a bottom? Of course, those last two at the time were no. And then the inverted head and shoulders S, there's the left shoulder area, the right shoulder area. But regardless of how you want to look at it, it pierced near that area here, pierced, resisted it here, resisted it here. Then all of this action in here was showing a lot of strength amongst the 18 average of highs. And sure enough, getting out above that level of resistance, had a good leg higher, and enough of a good leg where it was able to have a bit of comeback and support that major area of resistance. But since this point, the last three periods, how it's lifting off from there, how it's minorly broken above this level of resistance, this is what's getting me very super excited right now. And in doing such, and I'm going to go back and forth short term to long term because the plan is going hour and 15-minute term. But in such a move in here, when I see the pattern within this 18, you're in an amazing uptrend. So from the last break low, the price action managed to go to this area here before the 18 did any sideways action. This was a correction, but not enough to make the 18 even go sideways. So point A low to point B high. And you have a correctionary move that makes the 18 at least go sideways and try to spending enough of a time in here, which it did, the significant amount of time, and now showing the leaving of this area is what it's really looking like it's going to do. And when you have that, you have this correctionary mode and you leave the 18 average of highs like this after a correction. And when you do so because you're barely below the high, that's because you had a time correction. It didn't have much for price, just this, and that's it. So by the time it regains itself and it leaves things like the 18 highs, it's now just a pierce below this level that there's a good chance that when you get up here, if any, it's only going to be short-term levels of resistance that it's going to endure near this $9,000 area. And then in the situation, because most likely what's going to happen is it's going to have a break, and this is going to be LITECOIN-esque Litecoin-esque because here we are going to an area of resistance in which it kind of pierced below before that I am going to suspect is going to decently take out. I'm thinking for a short-term move, 11-1-ish area is, and I don't got the Fibonacci lines on here. It's 9,800 and change, however. But I think as this breaks out, this is the area of price action in which this is going to be heading towards. Okay, this is yeah, this to me is exciting stuff. And now let's again back to the 4-hour term time frame. I do like how the signs are breaking above it. It has barely gotten above this. To me, that is a fantastic, fantastic situation. Single hour term. Okay, let's put these horizontal rays back in. Okay, we had this level. That was long ago. And then the one that I talked about now, which obviously was taken out here in today's session, but as I mentioned, around 4 o'clock is when I really noticed things were picking up. And there's 4 o'clock right here. So it breaks out above at 2 p.m., 1400 hours. And then it has a pause move, congesting, staying within this previous area. That's a strong setup in itself. And the fact that it didn't go down in here after this move was showing that this move, the statement was being made, as we can see, leaving the 18 average of highs. It did so here as well, but it corrected it and then followed through again. And then, so basically leaving it here, we had one leg, two leg, and now the three legs higher so far. But this second and third last leg has gotten above this level of resistance. And now, just short term, what are we seeing in here? Yeah, coming back to this area which it came from in here. And we're in this bull market, so the buyers are in control of this market, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets going and does really well. As I've been stating, all these sell-offs are guilty until proven innocent, because as we've been seeing amongst such that markets are rebounding its sell-offs really, really nicely. And just again to show, there's this sell-off in here, and so far, this is also telling us that There's just a lot of people not looking to sell because of, oh my goodness, sellers are coming in, the market's trending over. That's not scaring people, especially when you see in situations like in here, because you had a spot here where you go down and you establish this level of support. You have what is this little bit of a failed breakout because it gets above the 18 average of highs. And when it fails the 18 lows in here, it has its leg over. So during this process in here, this is where a lot of concern was, at least for just a leg lower down in here. But when it came down to this level of rehit support, it obviously managed to be just that, of support, and of course buyers showing the control in which they have in the market. 15-minute term time frame, just another decent correction, the best correction we've had since around 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see how this goes through. If it fails, I'm going to be looking for this to have a good move again to where it was. And just quickly looking, it's somewhere around there. And we'll finish this off by showing the long-term analysis among such. And on the weekly term, obviously, again, same sort of deal as far as a correctionary mode. It got above this 18 average after a correction in which, when you look at it on a log scale, was just a little bit of a price correction. I mean, one layer lower, but it was not that deep. It only filled a little bit of this empty space down to about 3,100 low change. Getting above the 18 average of highs, as we can see, has had its spectacular mode ever since. So when you look at any type of moves in the past, when they're good, notice what happens every single time it leaves the 18 average of highs. Also, if you're trying to do that, look for situations when it leaves it and it does so within and then fails. But also realize it needs to leave an 18 average of highs that is rising or neutral, starting to rise. You don't want to look at as much at the ones that are declining because those are bear market rallies. But in this case here, this was where it was declining. It went neutral, and then after that, of course, the magnificent move. And when you get well extended from these bands, you can get well extended. And the 4 rally move period in which it had on the second move, which was here to here, really got this thing well extended from the band to the point where this few multi-week correction has still managed to have price action still well above where that level is. But we've also seen in here that it's had a little bit of this correction. We can see it in here, sort of like in here, where we had a few periods, we were still above the 18, and it was like, you know what, we're just not ready to correct there yet. And I'm starting to think the same thing again here, that breaking above, we're just not going to be ready to correct within this 18 as of yet. And breaking above here, like I state, I don't think that this is going to be the area where it's going to top. That would be a definite failed breakout if it does, but it's more likely going up that it does do that, and the odds, of course, for it to do such, to me, I think, are fantastic. We'll finish off Bitcoin on the monthly term time frame, and I'm on that's 17 or 13 minutes. 13 minutes. I thought I was on 17 minutes. I'm thinking that's longer than I thought. So I can still make this a 20-minute video. Good. Okay, so not resisting the lows, not resisting the highs. This month is still on the 13th day, so we're halfway through. Volatility right now is small, but we'll see what happens. It could be a pause month, but it's looking as if there's a good chance we can continue this move. And in such, then, well, this area here, well, I guess I'll be looking for support at the 18 average of, well, right now I'm looking for support between like 5,000 and 65. If this has a decent sized rally up, I'd probably increase it from like 65 to like 75 kind of deal. But uh, getting above the 18 average, if it's doing in a situation like I mentioned before, it's doing it on an 18 that is not in decline in a bear market. And even though this is declining, no, not really. It's pretty much a neutral one because of how lackluster, as far as price was concerned, this correction was. But I am looking for a clear break above it, and right now that's not a clear break. And if I see price action get to this 11-12 area, well, now I'd be indicating that to be such, which means If it can hold and stay above the 18 average of highs area, which would start to rise, so if it could hold and stay above where we're congesting this area here of about 75, 8,000, if it can hold 8,000 now, if it goes to 11 or 12 area, and it can do that for the rest of the summer, for 3 or 4 months, then that's a good sign. But even just getting above, this thing is so wild card that we could be 3, 4, or 5 periods away from new highs. Because when you look at it in a situation of this, how many periods does it realistically take in the exitation? That's the second time I've used that word this year. The exitation of the 18. How many periods should it take to get from here to here? A couple, three? And then if it's to make a move up to here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on top after that maybe, which really does indicate that as we end this year into next year for this type of move is pretty far out. Because realistically, having a couple moves here and like 3 or 4 up here, which is like 6, that it's realistically at the end of the year we could be 70, 80, $100,000 Bitcoin. Again, one of the reasons why I'm like, man, this is just cool analysis with the stuff that I was going over in preparation for how I was doing this video. And now everything that I wanted to talk about Bitcoin is done. Okay, GoCoin. Okay, come on. I actually wouldn't mind it going down a bit more because I want to get buy order fills, and I'm the type of person that actually likes to see my coins go down short term. A lot of other traders are, of course, too. QTIM having a decent day. Bitcoin Cash with a little bit of a nice day, giving back some of its gains. I sold some of it earlier and bought myself some DGB. QTIM, I sold some of that earlier as well, and I bought Theta with that, but still looking pretty nice. But Litecoin, that's the one I really want to talk about, as Litecoin's down today. But I mean, it's down after it's been up a lot. 131 is the US dollar price, and the Bitcoin price is 0.5 or 1.596% of that of Bitcoin's price. So $131 price action getting above this Fibonacci level. Now, really, this is a complete day of pausing the last 3 days worth of gains and viewing such amongst the 4-hour term time frame. I look at a break on the 18 average of lows here as like, yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, it's got a lot of empty space to fill. And of course, on the daily chart, it's the 18 average of highs is in at 124 almost. It'll be rising to about 125 or 126 as we, but yeah, 120. It'll be 125 tomorrow, and then the 18 average of lows will be well over 100 and 115, 106, about 115 or so. So as those are the key areas there. But where did we come from? About 118, piercing in 100, the 110s. Basically 112 to 118 if of course we're going to be finding support. But single hour term time frame, we've just recently broken down below this little area of support, established a new one here at about 127 and a half, have now recently come up to the 18 average, resisting this area of previous support. It's now looking as if it's going to leave this 18 average of lows here, and if it does, we're looking for the price action to possibly make a new low. That doesn't mean it will, but it definitely increases the odds as it's breaking lower that it will. For it still has a possibility of battle to get up to this 18 average of highs, which is further into the deeper part of where this resistance is. You can almost say it's weak resistance because it's pretty much around the closes. But either way, this it's got to get above this area to even attempt to revert the trend. You could say between 10 and 11 o'clock in here, it barely attempted to do so, but obviously at that time frame was unable to manage to do so. Of course, monthly term time frame, just like Bitcoin. And same sort of deal. How many periods is it going to take to get to 244 from where we stand? Maybe one or two. And then the same thing. What would be a decent sized breakout above here? About 800 to 1300. I mean, things could get pretty wild as we move into as we move forward. And then 18 average, this thing is still alive, showing great signs. A very good, solid green candle still within this week as we're closing in on the end of the week. But definitely very progressive. 18 average of highs is $99 on this. So basically $100 is the more $100 between 80 to 100 right now. And of course, next week, those numbers, of course, would continue to rise. Let's take a look at Litecoin versus the Bitcoin cross. Now up to 160, because I've been looking at this number under that for several hours now, it seems. Daily term time frame, the beautiful, beautiful up move. So we have a down day yesterday at 3.14, 3.78 yesterday. It's still barely above the 18 average. And it wasn't that long ago. I was just saying, I can remember this day. I was saying how much I loved the June 5th day. And that was at the 1328 handle. Now it's down to 159. So a magnificent, magnificent situation in here. And the hourly time frame, there we are giving it back to from the 170, one leg lower, congesting, another leg lower, and now it's just starting its correctionary trend, something that started back at the 20-hour mark here. We'll see what happens as we move on. As it left the 18 average of lows here, look what happened. It didn't find much support at all here, just short term, another leg lower. So we're now building up all these like an uptrend line and so you really have to look at like the 5 minute, 15-minute time frame to get any indication on weakness. But it is working towards this lower end of this correctionary move. I would look here at the 18 average of highs as a level of resistance, even a pierce above into this key area. But if it's going to come back to where it came from, I suppose you can count 1609 handle, but all the way up to 1640, 1650 for it. And for myself, whatever happens, happens, because I've sold a lot of Litecoin over these few days here as the price were going up, buying a large assortment of different coins. And if the price action goes back down here, well, then I'll just get those Litecoin back. And if it doesn't and it starts going up, well, then I'll just let my ratios, of course, play itself through. Okay, I don't think there's really anything else I want to go over. Gold and silver, I should make a separate video for, but this is worth covering because it is even related to just global economics and all that type of stuff. But and it's even getting better. What a fantastic, fantastic move. I haven't looked at gold in a few hours, probably 4 or 5 hours. 3 hours, 3 hours. It's 7:24. I looked at it like 4 o'clock last. This is I'm even more excited about gold and the prospects as I am for Bitcoin. Maybe just as excited. I don't know. But there's this Fibonacci line at 1321. It's an extremely long-term one, and I like how it got above it here. The double, the over a span of 3 days, coming from the high of a little higher than where we are now, down to this appears below 1321.07. And how it's just continued to lift off from this. But what I'm seeing without even calculating in Fibonacci, because even though I have an eye appointment with my eye with an optometrist for the first time since I was like 20, 21 years old, and my eyes have been getting better the last 2 or 3 weeks, which is good. But anyway, it's clear eyes can see that, and I'm 43. I guess when you enter your early 40s, this happens to everyone. But it's at the point where I can't read. It seems I look at a regular book and everything's so blurry. My 2FA codes or any text messages. I need those glasses. And anyway, that's off subject. But I can tell that this is like an 89, 90% retracement. It's well over the 61.8 from this high to this low. So this tells me it's already violating the 61.8, which is fantastic because if it breaks this level of resistance on the daily, what does this mean on the weekly? Well, this weekly candle, as it looks, is a damn bullish one when you consider two green ones up like this and to have what I thought might be called a cattail. That's what I remember back in my 2007, 2008 learning. But we've had all of this level of resistance in here, and we're pretty much close to the upper area now. But what I like is how it pulled back down in here and held and stayed above the 18 average of lows. And then getting above it here, I love how it's pulling through. And the monthly chart is where this gets extremely fascinating, extremely amazing, because getting above here, and I've been talking about this break now for 3 years. And every single time there's one, two, three, four. This is the fifth opportunity since 2016 for gold to, okay, let's get this thing done. Let's have a big breakout. We got point A high, we got point B low. We're now reverting this damn trend and we're going to get it done. And if it were to have done it in here, I get more enthusiastic or optimistic about a breakout on this setup if it were to happen now compared to a breakout somewhere around here because it's had all of this sideways time to correct and heal within this market. That when I see more of this sideways move, it can oftentimes mean breakouts of resistance and support can be much more fantastic in volatility. And then my feeling is if gold does this and it goes up to 1522 and probably going to pierce higher into like 1560 up to 16, maybe a little higher than that. And who knows if it finds resistance there. If it doesn't find resistance there, we're talking about previous high at 1900. But that's going to make silver prices have fantastic moves as well, and most likely the gold to silver ratio going down. Not guaranteed, of course, because there can be a phenomenal single leg higher rally for gold that makes this go higher because it majorly overperforms silver, especially if gold either does a grinding move higher or if it has like an 8%, like a 5, like a 4% day when silver does 2%. But the gold to silver ratio, what has it been doing? It's just hanging in there, still going higher. But again, we'll see on the breakout. I'm confident it's going to do it. I like the probability odds. It isn't by accident that I've bought in uh, just I've bought in two decent sized. I've bought in a quarter and a half ounce gold piece over the last several weeks, and it's not by accident because I do see this thing having a significant break coming soon. And let's quickly take a look at. Oh no, I mean gold and silver. This most likely I think would go down, and I think in time it most severely will do go down severely to the point of even into single digits. But you know what? The market will do what it will do, and I can only react to the situations that play itself out now. For silver on the daily term time frame, reversal of trend. Stage one band flattening out. That happened at the end of May. Stage two, establish a level of resistance. Well, I'm gonna do this in two different ways. I'm gonna do this in two different ways. Um, I'm gonna do the one that looks obvious right now, which establishes resistance here at 1513. Stage two, come back to the or stage two establish resistance. Stage three, come back to this band. Stage four is break it. So now it's leaving it. So this is that situation again where you see a spot where it's leaving the 18 average of highs in a non-bearish situation. Like time to. This is a situation where like okay, long times buy, go long, try to find entry points, do the best you can, and doing your short-term analysis trading, knowing that you got biases entering the next few days that are headed towards the long situation and the upside because of just of this type of stuff that's going on here. And when we look at this, like the weekly and monthly for gold are like such a sickly amazing setup, and the same cannot be said true about silver. I mean, in here, it's just now getting up to the 18 average of highs. Last week it did it. This week it came down the lows and started to rally up. That's enough to make the band go flat. That's all that is doing. On the monthly time, and that's all this has been, is just really hanging in there. I mean, when you consider it's been uh, June of 2013, really since the summer of 2013, price action has been below like 20 to 14, and even for the most part, well, 20 to 14. And that is a significant period of time, 6 years. And when these things are ready to go, I wouldn't be surprised that when this gets above the 18, that it could have the potential for a large move. And gold again, going up to like 16, 17, 18, 1900 US. Do I think silver's going to be at 17 when it's at 19? I guess maybe, but I highly doubt not. And that will be that. I didn't plan on talking about gold and silver. So I did plan on doing like a 21, 22-minute video. I plan on talking about Bitcoin. I plan on talking about Litecoin and whatever little quick bits of cryptocurrency stuff that I could find. But it's an exciting day for me. It really, really is. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So if you can physically hold your gold and silver, and right now I'm holding both gold and silver in my hand as I'm writing this, it's a good feeling to have. In cryptocurrencies, 99% or so of my cryptos are held with me having control of the private keys. So a lot of people say you can't touch and hold cryptocurrencies. I highly disagree. And I also think too, to the point that why would I want, like, if I have the option to hold it myself or somebody else, oftentimes I'd rather do it because you never know when a financial institution holding your funds gives you news you don't like. And maybe you're only allowed to withdraw so much, or maybe you have those bank holidays and things. And in situations of gold going up, silver going up, I wouldn't be surprised if cryptos go up with it, at least at first. And that's going to bring the Bitcoin going up doesn't bring as much fundamental news as far as weakness of the currency, fiat debt note system, the monetary models. Like the precious metals do that, but the Bitcoin's not as much so. So it's more noteworthy on the news front. If gold does exactly what I think it's going to do, and silver follows suits within it, thus, like Litecoin and Bitcoin go up and down together, silver, gold go up and down together. I'm expecting that to take place. And I made this a 32 plus minute video. Alrighty. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye bye.